Okay. Hey everybody. How's everyone doing? Can people hear me okay? I'm trying not to talk too loud because I'm in a different undisclosed Starbucks. Can people hear me? Check one, two. Or am I drowned out by the music, or am I okay? I mean, I assume you can hear the epic Witcher music in the background, but can you hear me is the question. This music is so good. Can people hear me? Check one, check two. Test one, test two. Can people hear me out there? My chatterifics. The music is too loud. Okay. How's that? Any better? All right, let me cut back to that so you can hear. Okay, how's that? Much better? Cool. So hi everybody, welcome to day 14 of Fantasy Fiction Fridays. I am your, I feel like I should be Rob here. I'm your host and Master of Ceremonies. It's good to see everybody, and yeah, welcome. I am an undisclosed location again, undisclosed Starbucks, but it's actually a different one. And I actually went to the one that I usually go to, and walked up to the thing, and all the windows were blacked out, and they had these signs in the front that said there was maintenance, and sorry, not maintenance, renovation. They're working on renovation, and they're gonna have a thing, and I'm like, what? And I'm like, and they're like, you could go to one of these other Starbucks. I'm like, oh man, now I gotta get in the car, I gotta drive to another Starbucks, and then I check my GPS, and it's like I think it's in Shrek 2 where they have the thing where the big gingerbread guy is attacking the one Starbucks and everyone runs out literally to the other side of the street to the other Starbucks. Literally in the shopping mall across the street was another Starbucks. So I'm like, okay, I guess it's not that big a deal. So I drove across and I got myself set up and ready, and so I am at a different and alternate undisclosed Starbucks, but I am here. So we are here and I'm ready to go and excited as we move on here. Look, we already got a follow. Barely got started and we got a follow. Thank you for the follow, JV Wolf. Welcome. So yeah. So today, guys, what we are working on is I finished the short story that I was working on last week, and I submitted it, and I was actually pretty happy with how it came out. I was having some trouble with it for a while. Trouble isn't the right word. I wasn't feeling good about it. I felt like it was I just felt like I was dragging on, and it wasn't really what I wanted to do. And then I got to the end of it, and I was like, actually, this came out pretty well. So I have submitted it. There are 12 entries. So there are 12 other writers that submitted thing to the contest. Hey, what's up, Elsewin? How are the pastries today? I've got a bagel today, actually, but I'll show that in a minute. But yeah, so I've got 12 other entries. So we'll see. We'll see how I do. But I'm excited about the prospects. And I think the story is a good one, so I'm happy with it. But either way, even if it wins nothing, I still feel good about how the story came out. So today we are continuing work on my novel in progress, which is my middle grade novel, Winnie and Wormwood, with a new chapter, actually, which is called The Sea Serpent Scale. And I'll read it out to you guys, and then we'll get underway on it. But before I do that, just a reminder about ways to support the stream. If you haven't done so already, please follow the stream. Like one of you just was kind enough to do. Please make sure to check out the Discord channel with !Discord, Steam group with !Steam group. Obviously, make sure to check out the. No! Don't leave! Don't leave! Shoot! I just made a mistake. Darn it! I forgot. Okay, that's my fault. I tried to shut down Steam and I forgot that I'm using Rutoni Chat, which is Steam, which is driven by Steam, so that's my bad. Darn it. Alright, hang on a second, I'll get that back. That's not a chat problem, that's just me being dumb. Oh man, completely forgot. So dumb. Hang on a second. Completely forgot that's Steam driven. And Damn you, Steam content platform. Okay, hang on a second. Should be back in just a second. Okay, I think it should be back on now. Test. Maybe? Uh-oh. Oh, damn it. Can't believe I did that. Why did I do that? I'm just always so anxious to make sure that I'm not overusing things that I just, I completely shut down my chat for no reason at all. Darn it. Alright, hold on, maybe that will do this. Okay, now I think we should be back. Test. There we go. Okay. Now I see everybody. I think I see myself. Can somebody else type something? There we go. There's Elsman. Cool. Alright, sorry about that. My bad. That was really dumb. Anyway. So yes, so Steam exclamation point Steam group for the Steam group of course exclamation point ARV2 for the YouTube channel, and don't forget as well to support the channel financially. You can do that with exclamation point ARV shop, where you can see merchandise for the channel, and which would be cool because we have a lot of cool shirts and hats and things like that related to Infinity and Beyond, my D&D flagship campaign. And you will be expanding that as well. And then exclamation point Arv Treon, thanks to Stumpomatic, who I believe is in chat right now, who was kind enough to support us. We are back up to 400, which is great. I'd love to get north of that. Some really cool things that you can get for yourself. Also cool things that we can support for the channel. That really makes a financial difference to the channel, so thank you so much for that. And subs, we're at 38 subs, so with 2 more subs we'll hit 40. The big 40, which is awesome. So please consider doing that because it would be really awesome if you would be willing to support the channel that way. It's never a requirement, but always appreciated. Okay, with that said, let me get rid of this. Turn on that. There we go. Hi, everybody. So welcome. As you can see, I'm in a different location. Different Starbucks. My pastry, since you asked, is this rather sad-looking everything bagel. I feel like the bagel's okay, but I feel like the problem with everything bagels is that because it doesn't know what it wants to be, it just ends up as kind of like a bagel. Like there's no particular taste, it just tastes like everything because it's an everything bagel. So what are you gonna do? It is what it is. A bagel needs bacon. That's very true. What's up, Redler? Thank you for the host, Redler, by the way. I noticed that you were kind enough to host us, so thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's true. I really like, I have to be careful with bacon and sausage because of digestive reasons. But I like turkey bacon and turkey sausage, too. And it could definitely use some of that, for sure. I mean, it's fine, but not very exciting. I do want to mention a couple of notes. Yep, that's me. So a couple of notes about things. First of all, so we're going to be working on this. Tonight we have Pool of Radiance, so I'll be returning to the OG Pool of Radiance as we continue to try to clear out Sokol Keep, which has a tough fight in front of us, so we'll see how that goes. And then tomorrow evening is Infinity and Beyond. We're definitely moving into the end game of that campaign as we move forward here. We're definitely in the last quarter, I would say, of the campaign now. So definitely head over there and check that out. D&D over there has been awesome. All my campaigns I'm really happy with. And I should soon have an announcement about the dates for the new Esper Genesis campaign, which is launching next month. I just have just about the last details of that confirmed, and we will have a big promo campaign for that. We're going to have a lot of information for that, ready for you guys. So definitely be on the lookout for that, and please spread the word because I really want that to be a huge thing. I've been super happy with all of the campaigns on this channel, and I want to see that continuing to move because I think we got a lot of stuff going on with that. What's up, Chaotix? How you doing, man? Yeah, Matt. I'll tell you what, man. You and me both. last night I actually stopped by. I went to Housing Works to talk about to go see a talk about Brooke Bolander's new book, which is coming out from Tor. And she was there talking with Maria Headley, who I happen to know because I've been on panels with her at ReaderCon, and with Amal El-Mottar, our very own Amal, who plays with us in the Adventures of Middle-earth campaign. It was good to see her, and I got a chance to chat with her a little bit afterwards, do a little bit of stuff for Speculate as well. But that was really neat, and it was a really interesting talk about what seems like it's going to be a really powerful book. So you guys should definitely check that out if you get the chance, Brooke's new work. So I was thinking about the fact that the Adventures of Middle-earth campaign has been super awesome. Been really excited about that. The D&D with GOG has been great. Really been having a good time with Storm King's Thunder and those folks' enthusiasm, and just a lot of fun with that campaign. And really adoring the Infinity and Beyond campaign. Like, Rise of Tiamat has been great. The guys have been great chemistry, really good RP. So I'm just very, very happy. And so Esper Genesis is going to be a big part of that. When you guys see the players, when you guys hear the players that we're announcing for this, it's a good mix. It really is. It's a good mix. I actually just got the folks at Esper Genesis sent me maps for the first adventure that have been altered to be player-friendly. So I have player-friendly maps that they altered and stuff like that. So it's pretty awesome. I'm excited. Those are the folks at Alligator Alley Entertainment, of course, that will be sponsoring that campaign. So you just need one more angle. This is a different Starbucks Chaotix, though. I don't know if you heard that. The one that I usually go to is currently closed for renovations for a few days. So it'll be open next Friday. But this one that I'm at is at a whole different spot. So I have thrown your algorithm off, sir. Actually, I'm just making up the renovation. I'm just making sure I move from Starbucks to Starbucks, so you can't actually triangulate on my location. That's the real reason. No, it's actually renovation. But anyway, yeah. Yes, there are definitely player-unfriendly maps too. Well, you know what it is, Elspin? Like, I've done it before where I've been able to use GM maps. It's a little bit, when you see the number, like, on the floor, you know, you walk in and you see, like, number 5, like, there's always a little bit of suspension of disbelief that has to go in there. And it's useful just to give them a sense of the room and all that stuff. It's still theater of the mind. I don't always describe every particular encounter, and I definitely don't want to make it wargamey, because that was 4E, and everyone has heard my issues with 4E. But yeah, that stuff is happening all the time. I'm just trying to distract you. One other note, by the way, that I want to make quickly. This is something which I just discovered. We just got locked down. On Monday, I'm going to be taking part in a conversation with several other people, including Video Store Cowboy and Eric Vulgaris, and I don't remember if Askren is in that, but anyway, there's a few of us who are going to be participating in a conversation, I believe over at Video Store Cowboy's channel, I'm not sure yet, about The Last Jedi. Before the new year, we actually got into a conversation over Twitter about it a little bit, and people had some strong opinions. And so they invited me to take part in this discussion. So we're going to be doing this Monday evening. My guess is like maybe 9 p.m., something like that, I think is when we have it set for. I think it's 9 p.m. But anyway, it's this coming Monday. As soon as I know the times and the specific time, as soon as I remember the specific time, I will make sure to tweet that out. But it's going to be over, I believe, on Video Store Cowboy's channel. So you guys should stop by if you want to see some good Last Jedi Star Wars talk. I have a feeling I'm going to be somewhat in the middle on this because there are some people with very strong opinions on both sides. And as I've said, I'm not, excuse me, I'm not really big on I don't think the movie was as big a deal in either direction as some people thought. I don't think it was that earth-shattering. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was unbelievable. I didn't think it was horrible. And I just don't understand those reactions, frankly. So we'll have a chance to talk about it on Monday. But anyway, just a quick note, if you're interested in checking that out, that'll be on Monday night. And then next Tuesday, I will be streaming Curse of Monkey Island, as chosen by the chat. Excuse me. And then I'll be over at GOG doing my Pen and Pixel show and continuing my Divinity Original Sin 2 run, and that will close out January. Then we will be into the month of February. Last note, not this coming weekend, but I think 2 weekends. I believe it's 2 weekends from today, actually. I'm going to be at Farpoint in Baltimore, and I may try to live stream a couple of the events there. I should be doing my normal Saturday stream for that weekend, but Friday will probably not be a normal stream because I have a book signing, like a group book signing. A bunch of the authors are getting together and signing various books and stuff like that. So I may live stream that for fun. And I might live stream a couple of things during the course of the weekend just to give you guys a sense, a flavor of that convention. It's small. It's been running for a long time, but it's probably the smallest one that I go to. A couple hundred, maybe like 300 people at most. But it's fun, and it's close by, relatively speaking. I think it's like maybe 2.5 hours, which is about the closest one that I go to, I believe. And yeah, so I'm going to be on panels and doing readings and stuff like that. So, and including the reading of the story that I submitted for my contest, which was called, in case you're interested, the title of that short story I started working on last Friday was called The Consolidation of Canis, C-A-N-N-I-S, The Consolidation of Canis. And that makes more sense if you actually know what the story's about. So, anyway, so that's the deal with that. But today we continue with Winnie and Wormwood, and let's get to it. No. Darn it. There's this. Okay, and let's move that over there. Lovely. Okay. Last quick note is about today. So it is about 12 o'clock right now. I'm going to be streaming for about 2 hours and 15 minutes or so. I have something that I have a meeting that I have to have a conversation that I'm going to be having at 2:30. So I'm going to be closing up shop in about 2 hours and 15 minutes. So just as a program note for today. Yeah, no jazz music. Instead, just sort of the chat. I think this is actually, I believe, I'm in a more modern-ish Starbucks. I think that's what they're renovating it to. And I like the new Starbucks designs okay, but I don't know. It also feels a little... I like the feeling of a cafe more than I like the feeling of a barn. And some of the new Starbucks feel a little bit like sort of barns to me, like they feel kind of cavernous, so we'll see. I mean, if you want to, chaotic's okay. Just make sure you don't get in the way, okay? Just make sure you don't, We have serious business going on there. Oh, one other programming note, by the way. So my poor son, Mini Arv, has a dentist appointment because I think I mentioned to you guys that he had a couple of things on his front teeth, which was kind of a usual. We think now what might have happened is that he had some trauma. He might have banged his front teeth when he fell. This is months and months ago, and that might have been what caused the problem. But anyway, he ended up having basically like big cavities in these teeth. And so he ended up having to get basically fillings / caps put on the front of them because otherwise he would have had to, it would affect his bite. And this is unusual because he's not even 2 years old yet. So the poor little kid ended up, he's literally fallen on his face twice. The first time is what we think caused this problem, and the second time happened about a week ago. and so he face plants, and his cap fell out. Now his mouth was fine. He actually didn't, but he banged the cap, and they had said they were worried about that one cap because the tooth wasn't that large, so his cap fell out. So my wife is currently with him and my mother-in-law back out at where our home with him, and they told me not to, like, no, you don't have to come to this because, like, it's fine. Like, the dentist, it's a pediatric dentist, and they know what they have to do, and it won't be as traumatic as what happened the last time. Last time it happened, I was at school, so I didn't even find out about it until after I got out of school, and then I was like, wait, what? And they were like, no, he's fine, but here's what happened. But this time, it should be not as big a deal. But in any case, I have my phone on buzzer, so if I have to stop suddenly and take a phone call, you guys will know why, because my poor kid. Poor mini Arf. Okay, so let's do it. So this. All right, here's what we got. As always, I will read the first little section because it's important to kind of remember what it is that we started with before we move on. Okay. Chapter 3: The Sea Serpent's Scale. The first time Winnie saw the ocean, really saw it, not just in a picture in a book, but in real life with her own two eyes, she could hardly believe it was real. Mr. Wormwood often talked about the scale of things, how enormous the world was, how grand everything in it and around it. Nothing annoyed him more than the phrase, "It's a small world." But words and pictures were not the same thing as real experience. The ocean seemed to go on forever, past the edges of the horizon, well beyond where Winnie could see, and in her mind, even larger, extending past her own thoughts. Every time she thought she could grasp the size, she would imagine some other connection or think of a place to which the ocean linked, and she was lost with wonder again. Not only was the ocean vast, it was inescapable. Even in a beach house, the sea was always there. Okay, and that's where I stopped. No problem, Stump. Thanks for stopping by, man. Hi, Ten. Hello, Ten. How are you? It's good to see Ten. Thank you for the retweets, by the way, guys. Thank you for the retweets with Uncle Elias and so on. The music is cutting me out. You mean the Witcher music? Do you mean the Witcher music or the Starbucks music is cutting me out? Which one? The music is too loud? Okay. How's that? Is that better? The Witcher music, okay. Is that any better? Cut that down a bit. Okay, how's that? Better? Oh. Darn it. There we go. That's what I wanted. Okay, better? Maybe better? Check 1, check 2. Buckle my shoe. Undisclosed location. This is it for you. Good to see you, Elias. Thanks for the retweet, Elias. Check 1, 2. Everyone. Good. Check 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. Check. Sibilants. Fricatives. Better? Alright, well, I need to speak up? Oh, well, okay. I need to be careful because I don't want to blow people away. This isn't my home, in quotes, home Starbucks, you know what I mean? So, they're not used to my eccentricities of streaming and speaking. But I'll keep that in mind. Yeah. That person just came in too, Elias. Tobek, listen, I've put up with your situation before, so you're just gonna have to tell your imaginary family that Daddy Imaginary failed, okay? Yeah, but it's a bit of an artistic conceit, Elsewhere, how grand everything in it and around it is actually. It works. It's just that normally you might say something like how grand everything in it and around it is, but it is frankly not a good way to end a sentence, and so. The idea, it feels a little. It's kind of an older construction, but it's actually grammatically worse. So. No imaginary dinner tonight, exactly. Hey, what's up, Corona Travis? Thank you, I appreciate that. I seem to be good at writing. Well, thank you. I try. I've worked hard. But good to see you. How you been, Corona Travis? This is a second undisclosed Starbucks Tobek because my first one is under renovation until next week, so it's closed for a few days. So this is literally in the shopping area right across the street from the one that I normally go to. I was saying before that when I first got to my old one and it was closed, I'm like, what? I'm like, oh man, I gotta drive. And then I saw on my GPS that literally I had to drive like 0.2 of a mile or whatever, not even, to get across the street. I'm like, okay, I guess that's not that bad. New pastries. It is. Bagel today. Although, you know what? I have my auto reload. This is annoying. I have a Starbucks app because I have a gift card type of thing. And I can't, it hasn't reloaded yet. And I tried to reload it and I can't remember the bloody password. So, like, it still hasn't reloaded. It's supposed to reload after a certain level. So I'm like, I don't remember how to reload it. So I've only got, this is a problem, guys. I've only got $1.86 left on my Starbucks card. This is huge, okay? Because you might say, why don't you just pay cash? But if I pay cash, then I can't get my gold stars. And if I don't get gold stars, I don't get my free drink every 100 quadrillion stars. So there's a lot riding on this password, people. Yeah, pretty much, Tobik. Oh, why is that, Elsewin? It actually depends on the laptop keyboard. I'm using Lenovo. Basically, Tobik, that's what they are. Yeah, basically. They're like basically food currency stars. The thing about I have a Lenovo T440p Elsewin, which is actually issued by my university. These are widely considered to have the best keyboards in the business. So I actually really like this keyboard, and this is the keyboard that I do most of my writing on my laptop, honestly. So this is the one that I like using a lot. It's still not as good as a complete full desktop keyboard would be, but it's pretty close, honestly. There are other keyboards, though, that are just junk all the way, they're too thin and there's no give, so when you're tapping it, like the computer is jumping about as you press buttons. But this is pretty solid, so. Oh, really, Elias? That's funny. That's funny. Oh, do you, Elsewin? Well, so my wife has a Lenovo also, but her Lenovo is much thinner. In fact, actually, Chat helped me get it for her last January, a year ago. And the keyboard on hers I don't like nearly as much as the one on this one. So, Tobik, what is the low mech keys? What do you mean? Is that a new key thing that I'm not aware of? You mean mechanical keyboard? What does low mech mean? Right, and it feels so good, Elias, right, to get that, even though it's probably like, if you had just bought it yourself, it would have been almost as expensive, right, as opposed to waiting for like 1,000,000,000 points to accumulate or whatever. Small mechanical switches? Really? Oh. That's cool. I didn't know about that. That's cool. Yeah, exactly, Elias. That's the only problem. Send help. Yeah, great. Thanks, Tobik. You're a big help. It's bad enough, Tobik, that now your imaginary kids have to suffer with their no imaginary dinner, but you don't even have an imaginary plan to help me not imaginarily suffocate, you know? So how's everyone doing, by the way? Is everyone enjoying their Friday? The last Friday of January. You believe that? We're almost a full month into 2018 already? I called him Locke, Tobik. I ended up calling him Locke. And I was fairly happy with that story. It's funny because actually the section, I could get a glass of fresh air. Yeah, I wish, Elswin, I know. It's actually starting to dissipate, so I think the person ended up leaving. Yeah, it's fading now. So whoever it was left. I don't understand how they could breathe. Like it was really strong. Anyway, I ended up naming the goblin Locke, and it's funny because most of the part that you guys saw me write, I ended up having to jettison to fit it into the word limit, because it's a 2,500 word limit. But I needed that section there. I needed that part there so that I would know how the characters would work in the second part of the story. For the Origins anthology in the summer, I may or may not use that same story, or I might use the story as the basis of another story using similar characters. If I use the same story, then I'll add back the part that I had to cut. If I don't, then I won't, but it'll be useful anyway. It's just interesting sometimes how those things work, because literally all I had to do was just cut the first portion of it and then make a couple of revisions and adjustments in the last 2/3 of the story, basically, to make it fit the limit. I actually turned it in, it was 2,500 words was the limit, and I turned it in at 24.99. So it was right under. Yes, although it's officially called Steel for Humans is the name of this piece in the OST, but... Banana Tiger. Banana Tiger, oh yeah. Yeah, that's true, Elsewin. That's true. When you're sick, yeah. I like that Elsewin. Nah, there's more than a bit of Scrooge about Wormwood. It's actually, by the way, Elsewhere, it's a good thought because I considered the prospect of giving him glasses. I haven't decided what I've thought about that yet. I want to be careful to make him someone who will be recognizable to people as having a particular type, but I don't want to make him into the utter stereotype. Like, I want him to be the kind of person that people, can imagine in their heads as being someone who might be one of these kind of irascible, kind of curmudgeonly Scrooge types, but not completely. For one thing, he is, without spoiling anything, he is also dark-skinned, and he actually is, he's basically the same, has the same color as Winnie. And that will come up later as to what that actually is. I'm trying to introduce it kind of gradually here and there. A monocle. Yeah, there we go. See, that's what I'm talking about. I'd have to be careful. Like a monocle and then like a ivory-tipped cane or something else one, right? Thank you, Tally and Jay. Welcome to the Argonauts. Appreciate it. Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one, Elsewin. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I may actually use that for something, for like really small things in particular, especially if it could be something that like it would be cool if he only puts on glasses, but then the glasses aren't actually it. It's these little like magnifying glasses that go like into place. That would be pretty sweet. There's actually oh man, I don't know. Do you guys know the character in the Mad Max movies that rides the helicopter? He's in a couple of them. He's in Road Warrior. I think he might be he's in the third one for sure. He's in Thunderdome as well. But he has these like thick glasses. I don't want him to have glasses like that, but I have this image of him like sort of with these glasses that he could put on that would have these extra like optometrist style, adjustable things. So pocket watch, I gotta be careful. Now you just want me to make him into me, Elsewin. There's a few resonances, but there are a lot of differences. I'm much nicer than Mr. Wormwood, I hope. Wormwood's a good man, and I like him as a character, but he does take a little bit of, he's got a few rough edges, so. But if he does have a pocket watch, he's got to have that vest, so. Oh yeah, you do? I mean, I just happen to I love pocket watches, so that's part of it. Pocket watches and maps are kind of like my clearest fantasy connection. Well, I also like, now get ready for the meme, I also like curved swords. Curved swords. I do like curved swords. And cloaks. I guess cloaks, curved swords, pocket watches, maps. That's not bad, right? Like that makes me officially fantasy oriented, right? As long as I have those things together. You gotta have that combo. Watches, curved swords, cloaks, maps. Well, Elias, dude, I do actually show up to all public writer events with my vest and pocket watch. That I do. All the time. That is like my go-to. If you've ever seen me in a conference or convention event, in fact, it's funny because when Amal saw me like on stream, she's just used to seeing me basically like in I always wear like my pocket watch and vest. And it's funny because it's like, so I have my group of writer friends that I see at conventions, but I also see like either outside of conventions or I see them the whole time. So it means that like not just panels, but then like after hours. So after hours, I'll just throw on some jeans and like a, some kind of geeky T-shirt or something like that. So my friends, that group of friends is used to me seeing me one way. Then I've got my group of friends and acquaintances that I see me on panels with them, and I'm always got some vest and like some pocket watch. I'm always with the tie. I've always got the full attire going on there. And then I have the group of people that, like you guys who see me with the hat and like whatever, like my normal wear that I wear on stream. And so whenever they see me, like when Amal saw me on stream, she's like, oh, because she's only ever seen me on panels with her and not like afterwards, like not late at night or whatever, like not hanging out in the bar or something after hours with people. So she had just up to that point seen me on panels where I always had the same outfit. So she's like, wow, she's like, it looks totally different. I was like, yeah. So I only ever had one nickname. And it was for a short while, my freshman year of college. I had the nickname of Indy because I used to wear this like Indiana-style hat, and that was the only time I ever had a nickname, which wasn't bad. I didn't mind that one comparatively, but yeah. One time I got referred to as the Legend when I came back to school, and there was a time that I was hoping that was going to become my new nickname, but no such luck. Hope we got somebody. Thank you for the follow, Talon. Welcome to the Arvanauts. I appreciate it. Okay. Oops. There we go. I just realized I've been falling behind on my eating bagel pieces. Hey, what's up, X5? Well, I have my mic muted, so that's part of it. What's going on, man? I am in a undisclosed Starbucks again, but it's a different undisclosed Starbucks. So, yes. It's actually in an undisclosed Starbucks very close to my usual undisclosed Starbucks. So, yeah. Yeah, it's just, well, it's where the tables are, X5. Actually, if I was positioned the other way, you probably couldn't see the collage, but it was a huge glare off the floor in front of me, so that's why. I felt like it wouldn't be very helpful to me to be like typing blindly. No, she didn't. We did the Lone Wolf stream, which was awesome, and we actually finished book one. But no, unfortunately, Terry did not. She is definitely on the mend, and hopefully we will have her back next month. But we want to make sure that she's got other art stuff that she's doing that I can't get into details on this, but there's other art stuff that she and I are discussing. And it's very important that she be healthy for that, and we want to make sure that she's like really better, so that she's working, ergonomically and doing all that good stuff, but also that she's not rushing back too quickly. She really wants to, trust me. She's like stir crazy with her drawing. She really wants to be drawing, and wanted to, weeks ago, but we got to be careful. So hopefully next month. Secret. Super secret. Okay, sounds good, X5. Thanks for stopping by, man. See you soon. True that, 10, true that. I will tell you all that, again, I do not want to give anything away about anything yet. But as I've said for a while, there are plans in the works that I'm extremely excited about, and which I think is going to be a big deal for the channel, and also a big deal for my publishing career, and I think will provide stuff that you will all be interested in reading, I hope. And I can't talk more about it than that, but I am excited about super secret things, is what I'll say. Well, I'm not at liberty to talk about them in detail, sir. Just things, plots. Oh, I just got an email, guys, that the game Stuffed Fables, which is the game that I demoed at PAX Unplugged, and I had heard about actually at the previous Gen Con or whatever, and I immediately pre-ordered it because I told you it's basically like, first of all, my daughter was like just so like excited about it, and it's pretty much you play a stuffed animal that is trying to defend your little girl that owns you from the like monsters under the bed, like the nightmares under the bed and stuff like that. It's so cool. It's so well done, like so neat, story driven, and it's by the same people that did the game Mice and Mystics, which we also liked. So it's finally released and shipped out. So I should be getting it sometime in the next week or so. So super cool. Really neat game, Stuffed Fables. I'm really excited. The whole board is actually the book that comes with it. So there's like an instruction book that has like pages that you flip, and depending on things that happen, you flip to different pages, and that becomes the game board. It's so cool. And yeah, my daughter was all about it. So even though she's been doing some D&D with me also, but she was really excited to do something like this. So yeah, Stuffed Fables. So I will let you guys know how it goes.
Wolves asleep amidst the trees. Bats all asleep in the breeze. But when soul lies anxious while awake.
Wow, guys, I wanted to write 3 pages today, and I'm actually ahead of the schedule. I might be able to get 4 pages written, which would be sweet if I could get that done. That's cool. Mr. Murphy, next DM panel is going to be next month, probably. My guess would be mid-month, but I don't know exactly. I have to wait until basically next week is when I'm going to schedule all that stuff. So my hope is that next week I'll be able to know whether it's a Friday or a Saturday. It'll be a Friday or a Saturday, but I don't know exactly when yet. And it also depends on scheduling for the other guys involved. So, but yes, but I will post it. One thing I can suggest is that if you haven't already done so, if you type in this, that will give you a link to the current schedule, and that will show you what we have up to date. Although at the moment, all it has is basically through next week, because that's the end of January, and then I'll worry about February after that. So, but I hope you had a chance to watch it and enjoy it. I actually had a lot of fun on that last MOD with our friend Askren, and of course Louise Moore, Accidental Legend, as our guest star. So next month we'll have Will back in the fold from Encounter Roleplay, and should be Askren again, and I believe Digital DM Dave will be joining us again. So. Cool. Cool, I'm glad, Mr. Murphy. Yeah. I find, I like talking shop, whether I'm talking shop about writing or about music or about streaming or about gaming and about dungeon mastering. I always like kind of behind the scenes discussions. So I've been enjoying those. So good, I'm glad you liked it. Oh, nice, Corona Travis. See? Good stuff, man. We got you hooked. You've been hooked into D&D. That's what I like to hear. It is a fun game. It's, in my opinion, it's the best game ever made, because it's a game that I think is so broadly applicable to so many different circumstances and situations, and it's a game that it's very adjustable depending on your players, and it's a wonderful storytelling mechanism. It's social, it's communal, it's fun with friends, like exactly as you just said, fun with friends. It's good stuff. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. Did you play like a homebrew module, like one that the Dungeon Master made up, Chrono, or did you do like a published adventure, an official one? Oh, you know what, Stump? It's not a Toy Story RPG. But what it is I will, in fact, pull up, because I'm ahead of schedule, so I will pull up a little thing of Stuffed Fables. Yes, how about I actually spell it right? Alright, let's window capture that. Thank you for the follow, Down Low Tiger Lily. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the Arbonauts. Where did my thing go? There we go. Okay. So, let's just quickly capture that. Whoops. No. No, please do what I asked you to do. There we go. Yeah, so this is what the board looks like. So I'll sort of move it down there. So this is what the board looks like. So basically the idea is you play one of a set of stuffed animals, each of which has its own ability. And it's literally like you play like a teddy bear, and is one example, or you can play like a sock puppet, and then there's a few things like that. And the puppets, instead of hit points, they have stuffing. So as like creatures harm them or whatever, the stuffing comes out, and to restore their hit points, they actually like they restore stuffing. Like they have certain spells and certain things that they can find in the environment that allows them to restuff themselves. Nothing actually dies. Like at worst, they just lose their stuffing and they're like out of commission for a little while, for a few turns if they lose their stuffing. But there's different. The thing is driven by story. So as time goes along, you find out why the girl is having these nightmares and what you need to do to kind of get to the root of it. And the thing that I love so much about this is it's designed, you can see for yourselves that there are those miniatures there, and they're on top of a map, and to the right of the map is the actual description of what happens on the board. So it has all the special conditions, like the creatures that are there or whatever, the instructions for that map basically. And then depending on what you do, it's almost like a choose your own adventure at times, because you can decide to do certain things. If you do certain things, you turn to a particular map in the book. If you do other things, you turn to another map, and you basically work through it. And you can obviously pause, like once you get through a map, you can stop and like save it there. So you can just like go back to that map the next time you play. I love it because it's expandable. Like if you wanted to produce Stuffed Fables 2, all you need to do is make another book, right? And then you have it just built in. You've already got all the other stuff that you would need. It's not just combat oriented. My problem with Mice and Mystics is that it's really beautiful, cool storytelling and like a lot of cool stuff, and the miniatures are neat. The concept's great, but it got very repetitive for me, like a lot of dice rolling, a lot of combat. This one is very different. There is combat in it, but it's not just that. There are decisions you can make to avoid that. There's other quests besides just kill all the enemies that move. It's got this really whimsical sense of art. It's got like it's got a lot. It pushes a lot of my buttons. Basically, it ticks a lot of the boxes, and my daughter loved it. And I like this developer. I've actually met the lead dev of Plaid Hat Games that makes this. And Plaid Hat Games is now either distributed by or owned by. I know they're distributed by them, by Asmodee. Asmodee is huge. You guys probably know Asmodee actually bought Fantasy Flight Games, so Asmodee is a big board game company. And I think they either own or as I say, distribute for Plaid Hat. But yeah, I dig it though, for sure. I really like it. So I really was looking forward to getting it. And as I say, we had a chance to demo it at PAX Unplugged, which is in November. So it's really neat. Yeah, see, exactly, Stump. That's exactly it. There's something about it that feels... I don't know. The thing is that it's something I think adults would like because there's some complexity tactically about it, but the complexity isn't how many weird rules you can remember. The complexity is literally taking the simple mechanics and using them in different ways, and that solves two problems. Number one, it solves the alpha problem where you have one person basically take over because it's completely cooperative. So I love co-op games. So basically playing for everybody, one person playing for everybody is a big issue with cooperative games. So anything that can avoid that is good. The second problem is that it makes it so that the complexity isn't how much you can understand, it's how much you can apply from what you understand. And I find complexity that comes from simplicity is far superior to just added crunch, which a lot of board games sometimes fall into the trap of doing. Good example of this, a lot of the Avalon Hill games did this. If anyone's ever played the Arkham Horror games, basically like Cthulhu-based games, Arkham Horror is a cool cooperative game. That game, though, is fiddly as hell. It is so fiddly. It is so, like, driven by, like, little rules and nuances of this, and like you forgot to do the other thing, and like it's almost impossible in my experience to play a game of that where a rule doesn't get forgotten about at some point when you're playing. It's just too many to keep in your head. So that kind of stuff doesn't interest me nearly as much as a game where there's complex decisions, but the complex decisions are coming out of simple rule mechanics. And I think that's what this does. So, anyway, I'm excited for it. I want to make a note there. You guys might have noticed that I saw sensation. So my mind's frame, my mindset here is, I see sensation, and I'm aware that I need to be writing. I'm writing middle grade, so I'm not pitching this language as high as I might if I were writing an adult fantasy. So I'm going to cut back on that. So I think, okay, instead of sensation, I think feeling. The problem is that if you look earlier in the sentence, I said Winnie barely felt. So Winnie barely felt her excitement of the journey overwhelming any other feeling. Felt feeling, it's not terrible, but it's not really the kind of writing that I'd like to do if I can avoid it. Now, I didn't know when I was first writing that sentence that I was unconsciously changing up the words. So I changed it up from feeling or felt to sensation, this other thing. And I hadn't realized that I had done it until just now. So it's helpful sometimes when you come back and you're revising something, if you think, oh wait, I want to do this, to look and see why you might have consciously or otherwise done that to begin with. Like what it was that made you do those first things. So anyway. Also, sorry, Chrono, I just saw that you had answered my question about your nephew's official D&D book. That's awesome. Playing with family is definitely cool if you can do it. Actually, one of the little campaigns that I'm doing is one face-to-face campaign with a good friend of mine, and then my wife, Mrs. Arv, and my daughter, Little Arv. And so that's been a lot of fun. They're actually doing The Lost Mine of Phandelver, which is from the starter kit. It was one of the first officially published D&D adventures for 5th edition. It's pretty good, and they've been having a good time with it. By the way, I should say you guys have been doing this anyway, but if you want, you may feel free to throw any questions my way if you like. I don't want to necessarily give away everything that's going to be happening in the story, but if you were interested in finding out about aspects of the process or what kind of is going on in my head as I'm thinking about different stuff, I'm happy to do that if you guys want. So. Or not. You can also just lurk and hang out and have fun and chill. That's also cool. Pink hair. Is there a particular reason you want it to be pink, Chaotix? I'm just asking. I'm just curious. Why wouldn't you want it to be purple hair and then have her command a ship in The Last Jedi? How about that? What do you think? And I call her Boldo. Instead of Winnie, her name is Boldo. Oh, it could also be green? Okay, so pink or green. Alright, I'll have to think about that. Yeah, it's 1366 by 768. I don't entirely know why it is that way. I think that's just maybe my monitor resolution, possibly. So I don't know. I'd have to. I'm not 100% sure actually. Hold on a second. I want to check something, and then I'll answer that question. Yeah, that's what it is. The recommended resolution is 1366 by 768. That's just the resolution of my particular laptop. So. Do I have advice about how to get better proofreading and catching mistakes? Yes, I do. The common proofreading, the best advice I can give about proofreading and catching mistakes is to read well proofread work a lot. one of the things that I think people do not do nearly enough is lots of people write a lot. They don't read as much as they should. And what you'll find is that reading, when you do it over time, and when you do need some direct instruction to be able to start to catch these things, but once you know the basic grammatical rules and the basic spelling and that sort of thing, then what you need after that is basically for your brain to practice being able to see things that work and don't work. I've been reading a set of books to my daughter called the Circle of Light series, which is like basically a set of 4 books by a writer named Neil Hancock that were written back in the 70s, I want to say, which I loved when I was a kid. They are very much like Lord of the Rings light. They're not brilliant literature. The writing is not amazing, but there's some cool moments in it, and they're kind of they're a neat little like, you know, starter Lord of the Rings set, I guess is what I would say. It's a set of 4 books, and there's an epic sweep to it. And it's interesting because the writer was actually a Buddhist and had been in Vietnam. So his versions of combat are sort of interesting and a little bit more intense than you might expect for a younger kid's book. And the Buddhism thing is interesting because most of the time, a lot of the fantasy we're familiar with is driven by either a kind of atheist approach, which is what we get from like Philip Pullman stuff, or is Christian in origin, like Tolkien and people like that. So this is a little bit unusual. But as I've been reading these books, I've been catching, there were a lot of mistakes in those books. A lot of like typos and errors, even in published books. And sometimes you hear people say that there's tons of typos these days. Not really. But it's not actually like that. But it's like back then they had these same kinds of mistakes too. And so, yeah, so knowing, like reading as much as I've read, the, you know, millions of words that I've read over the years, the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of words I've written over the years, all of that combined together means that I'm pretty darn good at proofreading and catching mistakes when I see them. 1 second. Okay. As far as the catching those typos or the there thing, I don't actually agree, Marinda. I do think it helps catch those typos because proofreading is a combination of both micro level and macro level. See, if all you really needed was being able to catch like a misspelled word, you can do that with a simple spell checker. Like honestly, a simple spell checker on Microsoft Word will catch 90% of misspelled words. What it won't do is catch misplaced words, like what you just listed there, like there versus there. It will not catch that. Now it will in some cases. You can use a grammar check in Microsoft Word, but the grammar check is far inferior to a spelling check, because a spelling check is a very simple thing. The word should be spelled like this. If it's not spelled like that, you flag it. But there are so many words that are legitimate words but sound the same but are spelled differently and are both legitimate words, like there. And Microsoft Word is lousy at picking that stuff up as grammatically correct or incorrect. Moreover, there are times when you use constructions that Microsoft Word flags, but which are better. The classic is ending with a preposition. So you're not supposed to end with a word like with, right? And ending with a word like that, they say, sort of is considered a rule. It's a rule that almost all writers that I know break routinely because it's kind of a dumb rule. And the classic sentence they use is, the rule of ending sentences with prepositions is a rule up with which I will not put. That's how you'd actually have to spell the sentence, I won't put up with it. I will not put up with. That's a rule I will not put up with. Technically, put up with is grammatically wrong. It's up with which I will not put. But nobody uses that because the sentence up with which I will not put sounds stupid and is clunky and sounds like it's out of the 19th century. Not modern usage, and it doesn't even work as well. So Microsoft Word is lousy at stuff like that. Yes. But if you talk to a lot of people, Marinda, if you go to sort of like the Queen's English people, you wouldn't be an argument with me, but the Queen's English people would tell you shouldn't end with a preposition. They would also say that you shouldn't begin with things like that, like beginning with the word and is not something you should do because and is a connecting word. But frankly, many writers start sentences with and there are certain circumstances where you should do that. So anyway, But the point is that those are things that they won't pick up. So being able to read a lot of work, especially well proofread work, will help you to be able to catch those things in your own writing. The only other thing I would suggest is that catching proofreading and typos, it's not a good idea to try to do that right after you finish something. Like for example, you finish a story, you go back, you proofread it, that's fine. But it's usually a good idea to put it away and then come back to it hours later, sometimes even the next day, look at it again, and then proofread it a second time. And the reason is because your brain, when it's fresh again, will sometimes pick up on errors it might have missed the first time. Also, if at all possible, having someone else read your work is enormously important, because we will tend to make the same mistakes that we made the first time a second time. So we will sometimes write, the classic is putting the word like that on the end of the first, like let's say he went to the store knowing that it was the only place to get what he needed, or whatever. That, oftentimes, if you end a sentence with that, like end a line, I should say, with that, a lot of times people will, when they get to the next line, write that again, because they will have forgotten, their brain will have forgotten those things. Well, when you're going back over it, you will have a tendency to compress those in your mind, so you only see it as one that. That's one of the reasons, that is one of the reasons why you need a copy editor, a line editor too, who can go back over and say, okay, wait, you said the same word twice because of different people. So. Yes. No, Marinda, that's exactly right. That's exactly what I was just saying. You read what you thought you meant to say. That's exactly right. That's why you should not be the only reader of your own writing. You can't edit your own work. You can revise it, you can adjust it, you can do passes through it, and you should do that. But you can't be the only person who sees it, in my opinion, before you submit something, because you will do exactly what you just said. You will tend to make the same mistakes, because literally, biologically, you're sort of set that way. Yeah, and I have to say, Jay, what's up, Jay, by the way? I have not yet tried Grammarly, and I've seen it being promoted heavily and advertised, so I should check it out. I have not used it myself, so I can't speak to Grammarly being good or bad. I don't know. I am not sure. Yes, correct on all counts. And the thing about the good, now this is again, Marinda, assuming that you have the basic grammatical understanding to begin with. Obviously, if you don't really know what good grammatical English is, for example, you're not going to be able to understand how to proofread it. So you do need to have those basic rules. But assuming you've done that, then after that, proofreading is a matter of what I said. And the thing I want to say about the reading lots of good stuff, it's reading lots of stuff which is correctly used, because you tend to pick these things up almost through osmosis. Like, the more you read this work, the more it is internalized into you. Hemingway was an exceptionally clear writer, and his clarity of writing came largely from all the work that he did reading, in particular, journal articles and newspaper articles and stuff like that, because he was a journalist for a time, and reading lots of work that had that sort of thing. Now, he also read other stuff, but he made his bones with that original kind of writing, that original journalistic newspaper-style writing, and so he had a very clear style. Now, I do want to say, Hemingway's style is very sparse, and it's not good for everybody, and I don't think it's good for everything. I think there's certain kinds of writing that gets missed that Hemingway can't really do because of the style he has. But his style is unique and has its own strengths to it. People like Virginia Woolf or James Joyce, who have a more florid style, like there's more to it, they read extensively stuff that wasn't the newspaper kind of thing. And Joyce is a good example of someone who could write in many different styles very well, so that's a big part of it. Yeah, I know, Trent, right? That's the problem, man. You write, and then all of a sudden they're like, you gotta read, and you're like, oh, God. Ugh. Also, when you find a writer that really helps your own work, I recommend that you read more stuff by that writer, not so that you become that writer, but so that you can draw upon what really makes that writer work. A good example for this, for me most recently, is Sapkowski, who wrote the Witcher stuff. I told you all that I read The Last Wish, and I really enjoyed it a lot, and I really liked the style of writing, and it's something which I'm going to try to incorporate. I'm not going to become him, but like to be able to sort of learn a couple of tricks that I learned to be able to use him, because I tend to write a little bit more fuller sentences and things like that, and being able to cut back is really useful in fiction writing especially. And so Sapkowski is someone that I'm going to read a couple more things by. There are other writers like that for me. Sometimes people like Ian MacDonald is a writer that I really admire because his stuff just kind of clicks with me. There are other writers that are good writers that don't click with me. Their stuff is really dense and goes on for very long periods of time, and it doesn't speak to me. And then there are some writers that are very choppy and very almost like stream of consciousness all over the place type of stuff, and I don't really jive with that either. So it's good for me to read that stuff to gain things from it, but I'm not connecting with that directly, and so it doesn't have as much of an impact for me. You got to reread it then, Marinda. That's the key. I'm with you. I feel the same way. But actually, when that's an example of how good oftentimes the writing is. Sometimes the more the writing disappears, it's not always, but sometimes the more the writing disappears, the more that it suggests that the writing has been really well crafted, so that you just focus on the story itself. That's kind of how I felt a little bit with The Last Wish. And my suggestion then is to go back and reread it. So the first time you read it and just let it wash over you, like whoosh. Second time you reread it. I have read, for example, The Lord of the Rings 25 times now, probably. And that's not counting the times that I read it to prepare to teach it. I read it 25 times just myself. And then I read it, obviously I read it every year as I'm teaching it. Now when I'm reading it, I'm not overwhelmed by, wow, because I've read it, over 25 times and more. Now I'm focusing, because I've read it and I know what's coming in terms of the plot descriptions, now I'm looking at the how and not just the why. So, but you gotta... The only thing I would say about that is, first of all, sometimes things are going to be boring. Sometimes you have to put in the work, and trying to be the first one to tell you that when it comes to voice acting, it's not all just make cool voices. You have to practice doing certain voices even when that's not fun, voice exercises and stuff like that. So unfortunately, some of that you can't escape. But the other thing I'd say is, to me, anyway, just me, there is a real joy in seeing how something is put together. Like seeing the way a work is produced is really awesome. I love being overwhelmed by the joy of something, but I also love seeing how that effect was caused and admiring it. I've talked about the example, in fact, here. I can do this because I'm ahead of schedule on my writing here, so. Oh, yeah, Trent. Yeah, I've heard that. Never read it myself, but okay, I want to read the opening of one of my favorite opening sections of all time. No, it's all right. You're not distracting me. I did a lot of good writing earlier, so I'm feeling good. I hope it will let me do this, because I don't think I have this with me. Awesome. Okay, here we go. All right, I'm going to read you guys a section of Okay, here we go. Okay, you guys ready? Here we go. So this, to me, is one of the most startling opening paragraphs of a book that I've read in the last decade, okay? This is from Ian MacDonald's The Dervish House. The white bird climbs above the city of Istanbul, a stork, rising the riding air in a spiral of black-tipped wings. A flare of the feathers, it wheels on the exhalations of 20 million people, one among 10,000 that have followed the invisible terrain of thermals from Africa to Europe, gliding one to the next, rising up from Lake Victoria and the Rift Valley, following the silver line of the Nile, across the Sinai and the Lebanon to the great quadrilateral of Asia Minor. There the migration splits. Some head north to the shores of the Black Sea, some east to Lake Van and the foothills of Ararat. But the greatest part flies west, across Anatolia to the glitter of the Bosphorus, and beyond it, the breeding grounds of the Balkans and Central Europe. In the autumn, the stork will return to the wintering grounds in Africa, a round trip of 20,000 kilometers. There has been a city on this strait for 27 centuries, but the storks have been crossing twice a year for time only held by the memory of God. High above Kiriskar, storks peel off from the top of the thermal, wingtips spread wide, feeling the air. In twos and threes, they glide down towards the quays and mosques of Sultanahmet and Beyoğlu. There is a mathematics to the wheeling flock, a complex beauty spun out of simple impulses and algorithms. As the stork spills out from the top of the gyre, its sense for heat tells it there is something different this migration, an added strength to the uplift of warm air. Beneath its wings, the city stifles under a heat wave. Now, I find this opening so gorgeous that I can't even describe what it was like when I first read it, because the feeling of it is, because he goes on, and I won't go into more of it, but the stork continues to circle downwards. What's up, Chloe? Yeah, very funny. Continues to circle downwards towards Istanbul, and as you are following the stork, you are literally following the tail of the story, which is bringing you into its setting, which is Istanbul. The whole book is set in Istanbul, and you are brought into it through the power of this stork. I actually wrote about this for Tor.com. If you do a search for the Dervish House and my name, Gregory A. Wilson, you'll see that I talk about this section and about why it's so awesome. But that's an example of work that, because I understand craft and because I know what it takes to write work myself, and I've written whatever it is, 5 novels now, and 10 plus short stories and a bunch of journal articles and everything, because I've written a lot, I know the craft and I know what it was that he was doing in producing that, and holy crap, that's one of those ones that you're like, I have a friend of mine who used to say that he would, something was so good that he would like to punch the author in the face. And what he means by that is he's just like, dude, how could you write something so good? How could you possibly do that? And this was an example of something like that. So, yeah. Anyway, I love that opening. And I recommend that book, by the way. The Dervish House is awesome. Super good. Anything by Ian McDonald is awesome, but oh, man. Okay, now let's see. I got about another 20 minutes. Let's see if I can wrap up this next page. Yes, Judy, well said. Well said, Judy Dawn. Easy reading is hard writing. That's correct. Yes, exactly, Marindo. Well, but you'd have to read back over it again. It's because he doesn't overwhelm you with detail, but he provides detail. It's because he doesn't overload you with words, but he provides words that matter. It's because he gives you just enough. He makes references to the 20,000 kilometers, and he talks about the trip, but he also gives you this impression, this first image of storks wheeling over the city of Istanbul, and he brings you closer in. And as the paragraphs continue, there's less about the stork and more about the city. And he starts talking about people waking up, about the air conditioners turning on, and now that buoys the storks up, and about people getting ready for a big Champions League match, and about the stuff. And then, this is not a spoiler because it happens in the first 2 pages, then there's a huge explosion. And it starts with this bomb that goes off on a bus. And this all happens in the first 2 pages. But it starts off with the storks sort of kind of wheeling in, and then bam, right? And so there's something about just the amount of detail and the way that he brings you in gradually that makes it happen. The biggest thing is that the storks, as they circle in, so too your eyes and narrative attention circles in towards the actual plot. I geek out on that stuff. Like that, man, good writing is like that all the time. Another guy who does stuff like that, but very differently, not with the sort of, oh my god, the prose, but just is China Miéville, in particular City in the City, which is one of my favorite books, actually. The City in the City is great writing, and partly because it's not how complex it is, it's how much it does with space. So, anyway. I will let Chloe answer that. Yep, exact, Miranda, yep. Yeah, Judy, yep. Okay, all right, you guys made me do it. I gotta find this section. The great Ursula K. Le Guin, who passed away, I'm going to talk about it tonight on stream, to whom all fantasy and science fiction writers owe an incalculable debt. Ursula K. Le Guin is a wonderful, wonderful writer, and as you may know, she recently passed away at the age of 88. This talk that I went to last night actually brought her up because she's an extraordinary writer. But her writing style has a great deal of depth to it. Let's see if I can find that. Okay, I found it. So now, I need to warn everybody, this is a little bit of a spoiler for Wizard of Earthsea, but it's in the middle of the book, and it's so good that it, oh God, let me get to this section. All right, give me a second here. I'm in an undisclosed Starbucks, Judy. Okay, here we go. So let me set this up for you. Not on my MacBook. I'm on a PC, Chloe. MacBook. Bah. If I were on a MacBook, I'd be talking about sparkly magic and wearing a turtleneck. There's none of that here. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, here we go. So the setup for this is that this particular wizard has come to this particular fortress in the middle of this land where he has found a person from his past, this woman that he knew when she was a girl. And she is a magician, she's a wizard, and she is a sorceress. And she is the keeper of this creature called the Terranon. Now, Ged is running from something, I won't tell you what, and she has been encouraging him to ask the Terranon for help. Because she says the Terranon knows everything and it's more powerful and it will do this stuff and this is what's going to happen, right? And so here's the way this works. What's up, Video Store Cowboy? Our magical, they're the tools of Sauron. I see you. What's up, dude? Video Store Cowboy. As I said, I will be doing a talk with Video Store Cowboy this Monday about The Last Jedi, so you should check that out. Okay, so here it is. So here's this section. So this is what Ged has done, and she's basically been trying to get Ged to ask the Terranon for help against this creature that he's running from. And so here's what he says. And it's her in this fortress plus her husband, who's known as the Lord of the Terranon. Okay, here we go. Let's see. So this is her speaking. The Terranon that knows all births and deaths and beings before and after death, the unborn and the undying, the bright world and the dark one, will tell you that name. And the price? That's Ged speaking. There is no price. I tell you it will obey you, serve you as your slave. Shaken and tormented, he did not answer. She held his hand now in both of hers, looking into his face. The sun had fallen into the mists that dulled the horizon, and the air too had grown dull, but her face grew bright with praise and triumph as she watched him and saw his will shaken within him. Softly she whispered, "You will be mightier than all men, a king among men. You will rule, and I will rule with you." Suddenly Ged stood up, and one step forward took him where he could see, just around the curve of the long room's wall, beside the door, the Lord of the Terranon, who stood listening and smiling a little. Ged's eyes cleared, and his mind. He looked down at Seret. "It is light that defeats the dark," he said, stammering. "Light." As he spoke, he saw, as plainly as if his own words were the light that showed him, how indeed he had been drawn here, lured here, how they had used his fear to lead him on, and how they would, once they had him, have kept him. They had saved him from the shadow, indeed, for they did not want him to be possessed by the shadow until he had become a slave of the stone. Once his will was captured by the power of the Terranon, then they would let the shadow into the walls, for a Gebeth was a better slave even than a man. If he had once touched the Terranon, or spoken to it, he would have been utterly lost. Yet, even as the shadow had not quite been able to catch up with him and seize him, so the Terranon had not been able to use him. Not quite. He had almost yielded, but not quite. He had not consented. It is very hard for evil to take hold of the unconsenting soul. He stood between the two who had yielded, who had consented, looking from one to the other as the Lord of the Terranon came forward. That section, "It is very hard for evil to take hold of the unconsenting soul," is just genius in its confidence, in its strength, in its forward momentum. And the line right afterwards, which is that he stood between the two who had yielded, who had consented, and you're like, holy shit, they actually touched the Terranon? They were in the stone, like they touched the stone, they had become slaves to the stone? Oh my God, it's such good writing. And it's good because of how deeply it affects what is happening before and afterwards. Even the section about standing and looking around where the Lord of the Terranon was like this, crouched over and listening, creepy as hell, but so good. And that's an example of someone who knows full confidence. They know exactly what they're doing. So, yeah. Right. Oh, no, she would never have claimed that it was impossible, but it is very hard. The lack of consent makes a big difference when it comes to evil. And boy, if there is ain't that the truth these days, right? The number one thing is to resist, and resistance can almost sometimes be enough. So. Anyway, just a little bit of a sidebar. Right. That's exactly right, Miranda. But the reason it doesn't is because there is a kind of purity of the prose. It's pushing forward for a reason, and so it's almost as if in the oral tradition it is repeating words, saying things so that you will understand them. You know, like there's a deliberate pace to it. But the reason it doesn't matter, but see, here's the thing. She knew very well, Ursula Le Guin knew every rule in the book, right? She also knew when to break them. That's the difference. James Joyce in Ulysses breaks all kinds of rules, but he first wrote The Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, which follow the rules, right? You know the rules, then you break them. Dizzy Gillespie plays a trumpet with his cheeks puffed out like this, and with the trumpet bell, like because it was a broken trumpet originally, up like this. Why does he do that? He knows very well how to actually play. He did that because at a certain point he wanted to do things somewhat differently, so he broke the rules deliberately, knowing what he was doing. And that's the thing. You know the rules, then you break them because you choose to, not because it's an accident. And that's the difference. It's intentional writing. The writing is about being intentional. The rules are not something that should hold you back. They are the things that you should know and then move beyond. Yeah, sometimes Marinda, sometimes. It can be tough sometimes, yeah. And I can't give you any suggestions about that. That's just a matter of feel. It's just a matter of having the feel for it, you know? Yeah, exactly, Marinda, yeah. Oh, man, do I love that book. So good, those sections. It's funny, there's a person sitting right next to me who's talking about streaming, about live streaming, and like how he's thinking about doing it, getting a webcam and all this stuff, and I'm kind of like, I'm over here doing my live streams. I know, right? I should just be like, I couldn't help overhearing this, and I wanted to say, what do you think about this live stream? Why don't you talk to the internet right now? You know? And guess what he's using, guys? You know what computer he's using? A MacBook. See, one of us is actually streaming, the other one is talking about it. And the person who's streaming is a PC, and the person who's talking about it, I report, you decide. Exactly, Marinda. I'm just joking, Video Store Cowboy. I'm just joking. I have friends with Macs too. It's okay. I usually love doing it though because I always laugh when I'm watching people. Because like when I used to work in Electronics Boutique years ago, the big joke was everyone would be like, you know, Macs have superior hardware, and I always have the guy who comes in and tells me how much better Apples are than PCs, and then he'd be like, okay, can you show me the software section? And I'd be like, sure, and I'd bring him over to the software section, which is like one half the store, and then he'd be like, what about Mac software? I'm like, oh, and I'd bring him over to the one shelf of like 15 things that are the only things that we had that are actually made for Mac. So that's all, but it's a joke. I mean, the Macs are great hardware, so don't get me wrong. It's okay. Also, Macs are very good for music production. They're very good for a lot of artistic stuff too. I would never, it's just that as workhorse machines, I've always had better luck with PCs personally. Oh, okay. Yeah, straight Unix guy. Yeah, that's what I thought. Aren't you like a big tech person, VSE, in your real life? Aren't you a big tech person? I mean, before you throw it all away and move on to the glory of, GMing, which I know is your ultimate goal, but before you leave that life behind, you're a tech guy, right? You're an iOS dev. See? There you go. Oh man, that's so funny. An iOS dev. So you were right on board with me. Of course, you completely agreed with me in every respect. Actually, I do want to ask you, BSC. So I've heard people say that a big problem was developing for Android was harder than for iOS because Android was so fragmented. Is iOS still superior to develop for in terms of ease of development, do you think, or has that changed at all? I'm just curious about that. Like, is it any easier to develop for iOS than Android, or has it gotten closer, or what do you know about that? Yeah, so they're working on it? Okay. Well, I'm glad that they're trying to help more than they used to, at least. Oh, geez, Tobik. But of course, VSC, both Android and Apple are badly outstripped by the might of the Windows App Store, am I right? Windows App Store has like 2 apps now, right? Exactly. Oh, shots fired, Elias. Shots fired. I used to have a Windows phone for years and years. I had a Windows phone, Elias, and then I moved away from it because I was so sick of everyone having access to apps and I never had anything. So I finally was like, screw it, and I went over to Android. But honestly, for years I wanted to use, I like had a Windows phone because it's synchronized with Outlook natively. And man, so oh yeah, Chaotix, yeah. I had a HTC Tilt for a while, which was pretty good. Actually, it was kind of a cool phone. It was probably my last physical keyboard phone, and I still kind of wish I had a physical keyboard. I still miss that because the freaking swipe, ugh, not such a fan. Oh, the sidekicks. Yeah, I remember the sidekicks. Blackberries, right? Are Blackberries still like? Do Blackberries still exist at all, or is it completely dead? Is BlackBerry completely dead as a company, or does it still exist? BlackBerry's going Android? Wait a minute, what? They're still out there, but they're owned by Microsoft? Wait, are they going Android or are they going Windows Phone? Because if Microsoft bought them, they've got to be going Windows, right? You would assume. I can't imagine they'd be going Android in that circumstance, would they? My wife had a BlackBerry for years. She really liked the BlackBerry. I never liked the keyboard was too small for me though. I never liked the whole one-handed, like, the thing about the tilt was you could turn, flip it, two-hand, da-da-da-da, turn, flip, go back. So. But see, that's what confuses me. It's a dead platform, but then is the Windows 10, like you can use, am I wrong about this? Like you could use the same kinds of apps on Windows 10 that you can use on Windows phones, right? But it's like the versions work differently depending on the platform. Is that true? Yeah, 13 minutes. I know, Chaotix. Thanks. Yep. Right. But the apps work on Microsoft Windows phones, right? I think. Am I wrong about that, or am I crazy? There are still Windows phones that exist, yes or no? Thank you, dear Royan. Oh, I see. Okay. Best phone ever. Thank you, dear Royan. Okay, so BlackBerry is Android? Okay. I'm just glad that Android is getting most of the, like Android and iOS are both getting more or less the same kinds of things, apps now, so. No, the music is actually from the Witcher 3 OST. It's the DLC, the Hearts of Stone soundtrack. So it's the Hearts of Stone OST. Good guess, though. Yeah, that's cool. I haven't seen it either. I haven't seen it, BSC. I should check it out. I have not seen it. I heard there were some issues with it, but I have not seen it myself. Okay, good stuff, guys. Almost 4 pages today. I only wanted to do 3, was my goal. So getting to over 3 is actually pretty good. So I'm very happy with that. Good stuff today. Got some good work done. So I am going to bid you all a fond farewell because I have a meeting that I have to attend at 2:30, and I'm going to be chatting with some folks. I do want to remind everybody that tonight at about 9 p.m. Eastern, I'll be continuing my Pool of Rage Radiance playthrough. So you guys should definitely be checking that out. I've been really enjoying the Pool of Radiance stuff. That's going to be good times. And tomorrow, remember, Dungeons & Dragons continues with the flagship campaign, Infinity and Beyond. If you want to get your merchandise to show your love for that campaign, don't forget ! ARV shop will allow you to get over and check out the Infinity and Beyond merchandise that we have. And as I say, some cool stuff coming on down the line. So that's going to be a bunch of neat stuff that we're looking forward to. And on Monday again, I'm going to be chatting with Video Store Cowboy and Eric Vulgaris and some other folks about the Last Jedi and about things relating to that. So we've got some stuff coming up as well. Yeah, thank you, Judy, and definitely it's good to see you as well. I will see if I can stop by and check out your stream if I get a chance to do it. Always a pleasure to have other people involved on the writing side of things. So yes, I'll be back tonight, and we'll have another one of these creative streams next week, next Friday, as we make day 15 of Fantasy Fiction Fridays. But that's going to be it for me. I want to thank everyone who made this such an awesome stream. Tonight. Thank you to my wonderful mods. Thank you to Ten of Clubs, who was here today. Thank you to my wonderful subs, Ten of Clubs, Chaotix, Chloe Rose, J-Rab, and Uncle Elias. You guys are awesome. Thank you to my regular viewers, and also my Patreon supporters, too, I should say. Thank you so much for that. Thank you to Act Witty Now, Chrono Travis, DJ Flashpoint, ECAG, Elswin, 143214, Jagtris, Judy Dawn, Midfield Marauder, Marinda, Poltergeist Zero, Trendane, of course, Hugh Christensen, and the aforementioned Video Store Cowboy, and of course Nonstop, who just popped in. What's up, Nonstop? Good to see you, man. Good to see everybody. You guys are the best. But that's going to do it for me. I'm going to go have my meeting and then pick up my daughter, and I will see you guys tonight in about 6.5 hours or so when we get started with Pool of Radiance. For now, though, Winnie and Wormwood, well into Chapter 3. In case you're interested, we're now at about 11,400 words. This thing is going to be around 60,000 words when all said and done. So we are closing in on about a quarter of the way through it, which is cool. So yes, stuff will happen. I can lambast Video Store Cowboy. Oh, you're really? It's right. Trent's not going to be here. It's because of you, Video Store Cowboy. Listen, if Trent's character gets harmed in the making of this production tomorrow, you know who to blame. Okay? If he gets hurt, Video Store Cowboy, it's your fault. No, it's fine. But thanks, guys, so much. And Video Store Cowboy, you may hear more from on this channel as well. We can't talk about it yet, but soon you may hear of other things that Video Store Cowboy may be doing on this channel. But again, I can't talk about it yet. More details to come, more super secret stuff. Anyway, but that's going to do it for me. Thanks, everybody. Love you all. Best viewers on Twitch, and I will see you all this evening. Until next time, thank you all. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you all very soon. Thanks, everybody. Be good to each other. Have a good day.